We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Good morning. Welcome to the Basketball Show. I'm your host, Paul Sir, along with Ryan Reed. Ryan, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I feel great. As we discussed pre-show here.
You've got your FM radio music voice today, Ryan. I would challenge you on it, but it is great to have you here. And we have one heck of a show for you today. Our goal here on the Basketball Show is to bring you the best basketball conversation. We focus on one thing and one thing only: excellent and intelligent execution. Just like how you played, Ryan.
Oh boy, yeah, I haven't heard that before, but I'll take it.
So welcome, everybody. Our text line is 833-401-1440, 833-401-1440. If you have any comments or questions, there's so much going on in the basketball world. My gosh, NBA playoffs, of course, which we will be talking about a lot today. But the WNBA kicks off as well, and the Canadian Elite Basketball League starts tomorrow here in Edmonton with our new look Edmonton Stingers squaring off against the evil empire from the south, the Calgary Surge, in a matchup down in Hall D in the Expo Center, 4 p.m. tip-off tomorrow afternoon. Go to the Stingers website, get your tickets. We hope to see you down there. It's going to be a great start to an exciting CEBL season. Let's go with our poll question, Ryan. I think we've got a valid... we have a valid question to ask everybody.
Valid's a good way to put it. We're asking who the best player remaining in the playoffs is. Our candidates are Tyrese Halliburton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Donovan Mitchell, and Nikola Jokic. Go over on our Twitter, basketball_show, and cast your vote.
Who has been the best player in the playoffs so far? It is an interesting question because the two front runners for MVP, of which I think everybody pretty much accepts the fact that it's going to be Gilgeous-Alexander this year. I think everybody's in that space, and it will be really hard to argue with the season that he had statistically, success-wise for the team. Of course, Jokic had a monster season as well, but in the playoffs, and you know, Ryan, you and I have talked about this many times, it's a whole different deal when you're playing multiple games close together against the same opponent.
And you can't load manage either. It's every single game, and as you saw last night, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic did not play that well. Both teams are starting to not figure each other out, but they know how to stop certain motions from each player.
They are figuring each other out. That's exactly what you're describing, is you figure out what tendencies are.
But I feel like if I say that Jokic will have like 45 and 20 next game, or Shai will have another 40 and 10.
But to your point, if you know, as a basketball player, anybody who plays any sport, you have nights where you're not that good. And last night, it just so happened that the two best players in the game did not have what you would call excellent performances. In fact, that was Jokic's second subpar performance after his monster performance, 42-22 in Game 1 of this playoff, where the Thunder let one of the many leads, and I think this is something we're going to delve into a bit too. I have never seen this many big fourth quarter leads evaporate, and not only evaporate, but have the team lose. And we'll get into that in just a second. I want to talk about today's show. It's just jam-packed with greatness. I'm going to put it that way. Ryan, of course, but also we have Ben Golliver, who is frequently with us. Ben is the lead NBA reporter for the Washington Post and one of the recognized great NBA writers in North America. Ben and I spoke earlier in the week, so some of the content might be dated, but we really, as we always do, get into the weeds about what is going on in the NBA. And our second guest, I was so pleased and happy that we were able to finally connect. Seerat Sohi is from Edmonton. She attended J. Percy Page High School. Her dad is Mayor Amarjeet Sohi. But Seerat had a passion for basketball from playing in her youth growing up, and she has had a remarkable journey to the point now where she is a writer for The Ringer. And for people who are not familiar with The Ringer, it is the NBA website.
Bill Simmons invented it.
Yeah, Bill Simmons invented it. Grantland and The Ringer. It's an absolutely genius basketball coverage website. Seerat writes about the NBA and has a podcast on the WNBA. So I should go back. She writes on the WNBA and is focusing through her podcast on the WNBA. And she and I had a chance to sit down and talk yesterday. Absolutely fantastic conversation. Wonderful, intriguing young woman who is doing great things in bringing WNBA coverage to everybody. So really looking forward to that. And then we also will have Doug McLean in, and Doug is a renowned broadcaster. He does the Pandas and the Bears. He works for Fishu doing international basketball, and he and I have been doing the Edmonton Stinger broadcast for a number of years together. Doug's going to come on at 11:20, and we're going to talk about the new Edmonton Stingers. He and I got out to their practice the other night, and we're going to be calling the game tomorrow. So I'm really excited to have Doug in and talk about the CEBL, talk about the Edmonton Stingers, and the exciting team that they have this year. But let's delve into this. Talked about the WNBA kickoff this week. Caitlin Clark returned to Iowa City, where she broke all the scoring.
Are you familiar with that area a little bit? Or?
I've heard of it. And I'm a homer to Iowa, as you are to the Sacramento Kings. I'm the same way. 117 decibels when she was introduced to the Hawkeye.
Similar when I was around in college.
Well, that was Augustana's. That was always Augustana was right around there. But they and then she did not disappoint. She had not played in the previous exhibition game, which had a very interesting incident where one of the opponents threw one of the Fever players to the floor, I think setting the tone for what will be another chippy season. That will be interesting, and Seerat goes into the WNBA quite a bit. So we talk about Caitlin later, so I won't dwell on that. But WNBA kickoff and what will be another big step forward for this league. Last year, they got an injection of interest that they were not prepared for, quite frankly. And now the water tables have settled somewhat, and now they should be prepared for the attention and the focus that they're going to be receiving this year, not just because of Caitlin, but Paige Beckers is in the league. You've got the great A'ja Wilson, who is reigning MVP. They finally announced a WNBA player with her own shoe. A'ja Wilson got her own shoe deal.
Your favorite Angel Reese? Your favorite?
I love, yeah. Well, we won't even go there. But yeah, but Chicago's going to be better. Indiana is stacked. Minnesota, they lost in Game 7 last year. They're going to be on just red alert all season to get back to the championship again. Las Vegas is tough. New York Connecticut is tough. Like, it is just going to be a great league. We're going to talk playoffs as well, but CEBL opening weekend, Doug and I will jump into that. Out at the Stingers the other night. Very different team this year. Met a lot of the players. What a great group of young men. Holy smokes, was I impressed with these guys. Serious-minded, yet really good communicators. Had a great time. Doug and I will dive into that too. So I know everybody wants to talk about the NBA, though. We boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about. So why don't we start at the low-hanging fruit, which was the Denver overtime victory last night over Oklahoma City. I think a lot of people, myself included, felt like last night was going to define whether or not Oklahoma City was beatable, number one, whether Denver could rally itself after a 47-point, I think, defeat in the previous game, after pulling a stunning upset, being down 14 in the fourth quarter. Nikola Jokic absolutely willing the team to victory. I really felt like last night was going to tell the tale. And you know what? We have a series now, Ryan.
I think this is going to go to 6 or 7 games. I think going into the series, some people thought that it would be OKC in 4, and maybe not 4, but OKC in 5, or maybe max 6. Yeah. This is one of those ones where the Nuggets always get beat by 40 and then come back and win the next game. They did the same thing against the Clippers too. They got beat pretty bad a couple times by the Clippers, and they did the same thing with OKC here. The game 2 where they lost by 50 points, it looked terrible at times. Like at times it said, why are you guys even in the playoffs? But now, like they're not convincingly beating OKC, but they're right there and beating them. In 2 out of 3 games they've won. But if you do point differential, it's not even close. But no one cares about point differential in the playoffs.
It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. And I go back to the 85 Celtics when they beat the Lakers in game 1 by 40-some points. I think it was 148-105 or something like that. So similar kind of blowout. And the next game, Lakers beat them and went on to win the series. A blowout. The only one letter matters when you talk about games in a 7-game series. That's W or L. Which side of the game did you come out on? And an L by 40 is the same as an L by 1. And now, psychologically, you can make all kinds of other guesses about whether psychologically.
Apparently, it didn't matter. They came back and won after losing by 50. So.
Well, exactly. And you know what's most impressive, though? From my vantage point, is they came back and won after losing by that amount without Nikola Jokic carrying them. He had a dreadful shooting night. He still worked extremely hard.
0 for 10 from 3.
0 for 10 from 3, 20, 16, and 6. So certainly great rebounding and respectable.
But 44 minutes, though, right? Like 16 rebounds in 44 minutes by Jokic's standards isn't like incredible. I'd say that, like, you know what I mean? It was still a bad game all around.
Good point.
From his standards.
Good point. But and what's interesting is the entire Thunder starting 5 played over 40 minutes. Aaron Gordon, if I had to vote for MVP in this series to this point, I'd vote for Aaron Gordon. If it ended today and the Nuggets had won the series, Aaron Gordon would be my MVP. He's been magnificent, clutch
Gordon
shooting.
Yeah, he's hitting all the big shots, and that's what you need in this time of the year.
Yep, and Michael Porter Jr. had a comeback game last night. He's been battling a bad shoulder injury, but he came ready to go 5 for 6 from 3. Really got off to a great start and gave the Thunder, I think, a lot of confidence. The Canadian Jamal Murray, wonderful night, 27, 4, and 8. Tremendous night. Braun was so-so. Westbrook has been very impactful and still was last night on the defensive end.
He still just competes, and honestly, sometimes it's going to be inefficient. But when he's out there just running around, it energizes his teammates.
He really does. He's been a great fit for that team. Like, for all of the criticism Russell Westbrook has received, one thing that you can never criticize is his level of compete. He is always competing at an elite level with a ferocity, and that's what I like about him. He's not out there making friends. He's out there to beat you. He wants to tear your heart out. And I like that about Russell Westbrook.
Especially his former team here.
Yeah. Back in a city where he was a part of a great Thunder team.
Probably the greatest, not like the best, but he's probably the greatest Thunder player ever. like for legend-wise?
Legend-wise, probably. I mean, you can make the case that, I mean, you're also bucking up against Durant.
Yeah, but they hate KD now, no?
Yeah, they do. They do. And also James Harden, who they also hate.
They shipped him out too.
Yeah.
I'd say Russell's the guy, unless you count Seattle.
Well, and
Gary
Russell
Payton
won
and Kemp, but
two MVPs in OKC with his averaging triple-doubles. Or was it one MVP?
It was one, I think.
Yeah, one MVP. But he averaged triple-doubles 2 consecutive years. So, and then you look over at the Thunder, and this is what I find interesting. Again, going into the 7-game series, when the Thunder are rolling, and by rolling, I mean building around the greatness of Gilgeous-Alexander, they look impossible to beat because you've got Holmgren and Hartenstein, 2 bigs that are very, very good. And Holmgren's impressive. Very agile, shoots the 3. Good rebounder last night, 18 and 16. Hartenstein missed some clutch shots. And this is where youth and inexperience is coming into play, with a lot of people said. I mean, this is the youngest roster in the NBA. And last night they looked it. Like they were still in the game. But Gilgeous-Alexander was off his game. And we were talking before we went on the air, Ryan, about the fact that you start figuring out players' tendencies and you start adapting to how you're going to take their favorite tendencies away. And I think both the Thunder on Jokic and the Nuggets on Gilgeous-Alexander were successful last night in, in rattling the 2 superstars.
Or just exactly, they're giving them shots, which it's hard not to do. Sorry, it's hard to stop them entirely. So they're just giving him shots and saying, you know what, you're going to have to just hit a tough shot to beat us. And last night, Shea wasn't able to do it. Jokic wasn't able to do it. They're making everyone else beat them. And the supporting cast that won the game last night was Jokic's supporting cast, right? You mentioned Murray with 27. MPJ had 21. Gordon had 22. The supporting cast stepped up, and it created the advantage for Denver.
Created the advantage for Denver, and what I'm curious about is how that carries forward, because I think Denver now has belief that they stole game 1. Everybody, I think it showed through in game 2 for both the Nuggets and for the Thunder, that both teams knew that Denver stole one, got away with one. The Nuggets the Thunder came out in game 2, and they made a statement saying that was a one-off, and we're going to kick your butt right now, and they just rolled them. To me, the Nuggets looked exhausted in game 2, and even though Jokic still played about 30 minutes badly, probably his worst game, probably worse than last night of the playoffs so far, but you could just see this is one that they just said we're just gonna walk
Probably
away.
Not the best idea to go every other game, but I mean they will win every series if they win the first game, but then just rotate after that. But it's kind of a flawed idea.
Well, it's a flawed idea, but you want to win every game, a la Indiana Pacers. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. But I think like with the Thunder rolling them so badly, it was how do you regroup? How do you refocus? How do you build on the advantage you now have with the 6th-man home crowd? And how do you come out and attack your opponent who just handed you your lunch badly in game 2? And the Nuggets were ready. And when they would get down 3 to 7 points, they were back in it quickly. They never let it get away from them in a variety of ways. So magnificent performance by the Thunder last night and setting up what I think will be an intriguing series. And in speaking of youth, I was looking at some of the numbers in the stats of the Thunder. Lou Dort, other great Canadian, one of the elite defenders in the NBA, he had a very pedestrian night. 3 points, 4 rebounds. He played 34 minutes. He played good defense, as he always does. But that's the thing with Dort. You don't know what you're going to get. He's a streak shooter. You might get 20 and 6, or you might get, like you got last night, 3 and 4.
I know some OKC fans were rallying for Caruso instead of Dort, like get some Caruso minutes instead of Dort minutes, and you can kind of see why Lou's starting to struggle a bit. It is obviously him playing is never about the offense. It's more about the defense. But Caruso brings that same compete defensively. So If I'm Thunder, I wouldn't start Caruso. You got to keep that same five together that's been playing so well this season, especially in the regular season. But I'd up Caruso's minutes. Caruso played 23 last game. Dort played 34.
Yep.
I wonder if he could get Caruso to 28, 29.
It'll be interesting to see how they adjust. They very well might do that, and I think that you've hit on something. But I think Caruso had 7 points in 23 minutes. He's never going to. It would be the odd night where he's going to get you 15.
But it's better than 3 in 34 minutes, I guess. Right?
Yeah, and you're right. He does defend extremely well. So suffice it to say, both teams are going to continue to make tweaks in most cases and some major adjustments in others. And it's setting up a fantastic game tomorrow afternoon. In fact, they're the early game tomorrow between the Thunder and the Nuggets. And what a great series that's evolving into. We're going to take a break right now. And when we come back, Ryan and I will continue to talk about the NBA playoff picture, including the Boston Celtics' 2 horrific choking meltdowns against the Pacers. And will they be able to rebound like the Cavs did last night against the Pacers? I'm getting things mixed up. Pacers against Cleveland. Boston is against the Knicks. So we'll talk about the Boston Knicks series, Pacers, Cavs, and more. Timberwolves, Golden State Warriors when we come back. You're listening to your sports leader in Edmonton, Sports 1440. This is the Basketball Show with Paul and Ryan. Welcome back to the Basketball Show. We flow on the beautiful voice of Linda Ronstadt. Poor, pitiful me. I'll tell you what, she is just fantastic. The other day I was listening to some of her music, and I thought I had to make this Linda Ronstadt Day because the voice that she had and the power of her vocals in the 1970s was unparalleled. There are so many great female vocalists from that era even, but Ronstadt is right at the top and can stand with anyone. So, but I digress. Welcome back to the Basketball Show. Paul Sir, Ryan Reed. Ryan, do we have some early voting on MVP?
We do. So we're asking just the best player of the playoffs so far. And the candidates are Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is second place right now behind Nikola Jokic, who's another option. Jokic is 46.4% of the vote. Gilgeous-Alexander is second with 42.9%. And the other two options are Tyrese and Donovan Mitchell, who have 10.7% of the vote.
So I'm going to throw out my case for Donovan Mitchell.
Okay, yeah. He does not even have a vote yet. Like, Tyrese is ahead of him on this.
Yeah. Donovan Mitchell, to me, could be the MVP could be the best of these four so far, even though his team lost the first two. And of course, the low-hanging fruit is to say, well, they lost the first two. Where was he when the Pacers were coming back? That's fair. But it wasn't Donovan Mitchell when the Pacers were coming back. That was the problem. It was his teammates who could not hit shots. Mitchell has scored over 30 in all three games. Last night, 43, 9, and 5. And manhandled the very good Pacer team that stole games 1 and 2 in Cleveland.
He had some Michael Jordan-esque highlights last night where it's like if you put it in slow-mo and he's like doing the reverse layups and stuff like that, people are saying that if he did that in the 80s, he'd be in the GOAT conversations right now. It's
interesting you talk about him because physically the way he plays in many respects reminds me of Jordan. The way he scores because, again, in defiance of all of the analytics nerds who live and die by the three and the close two and blah, blah, blah that we talk about, he has a good mid-range game. He's not at the level Gilgeous-Alexander is, who's the best.
DeMar?
DeMar is all mid-range. And the problem with DeMar is, his teams never have been able to break through. But let's just say there are great mid-range players, DeMar being one.
I have to throw a king in there, right?
Well, it wouldn't be a Saturday if you didn't. But Donovan Mitchell has been tough on both ends of the court, and I think he's been trying to carry the team forward. And the other thing you have to remember is they were missing 3 starters in Game 2. They had everybody back last night, and they handled the Pacers, largely because Donovan Mitchell dominated the game. And so to me, you can make the case because both Gilgeous-Alexander and Jokic have had subpar performances. Mitchell has not. And yes, they're down 1-2, but so are the Thunder. And so I think you have to give him serious consideration. And he's one to watch as well. I think Game 4 between the Pacers and the Cavs is going to be fascinating because now Cavs back at full strength, Pacers at full strength, squaring off. Cavaliers have shown they can beat them now. How will Indiana respond?
I wonder if a home team wins that one. The first 2 games, the Pacers won in Cleveland, and then Cleveland won in Indiana. So I wonder if a home team can win a game in that one.
That's a great question, and I think that's going to be also interesting when we get into the Knicks and the Celtics in just a second as well. But I think, too, last night Halliburton, who I have in there, who we put in there, had a very bad game. Like he was not good last night after his superstar game-winning performances. Like he's been great through the playoffs.
It's the first time Tyrese has lost at home with the Pacers in the playoffs.
Interesting.
He was 9-0 prior. He's now 9-1.
You're a sandbagger for the Sacramento Kings. I always am a sandbagger for anything Iowa. Tyrese played at Iowa State.
Yep.
And Tyrese, I read a great article about him. He had an outstanding freshman season, decided to come back, could have gone into the NBA draft after his freshman.
Was he a Olympic lottery pick? I forget. What was he going to be if he went first, like late first?
If he would have gone after his freshman season, late first, sometime in the second. So he decided to come back. But his reasons for coming back, and this was in the New York Times on The Athletic, one of the things that goes out in front of Tyrese, and I think this is maybe where some of the sour feelings that other athletes have towards him, where he was voted by his peers in the NBA as the most overrated player in the NBA, is because of his big personality. He's like I don't know if I'm saying this the correct way, but he's like a sincere version of Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson, who is charismatic as the day is long, I always feel like he's selling me something. Like he's a great storyteller, but when he's telling a story, it always comes across to me like he's a guy telling a story. Where Halliburton, whenever you see Halliburton talk,
seems more real, maybe.
He's just down to earth and real. Yeah. He walk for all intents and purposes. He walks into a room, lights it up. He's super kind, very giving in the community. His ex-coach at Iowa State went to Murray State and just got fired. What was the first call he got? Tyrese Halliburton. Coach, I'm busy with playoffs, but I'm here for you. I'll be there if you need me. Just let me know and I'll get there. So, I mean, he's for everybody says he's just a great guy.
Is Murray State? Where is Murray State?
Murray State is in Kentucky,
okay.
And I forget which Middle American Conference it's in. It's actually where, oh my gosh.
Ohio Valley Conference.
Ohio Valley. Okay.
So I didn't know that conference existed. I'm not going to lie.
No. But Murray State has a great basketball tradition.
Ja Morant, I think, went to.
Ja Morant was there. Absolutely. Yeah, Ja Morant was there, and so yeah. In fact, that is where Ja came from. Absolutely. So you've got the Pacers and the Cavs. So Game 4 will be. Not to me whether the Cleveland can win. It's to me the big question is, can Indiana win now that the Cavs are at full strength? So I think that shapes up after the 2 upset victories in Cleveland. Was it a false positive because of the Cleveland injuries? And now that they're at full strength and the magnificent regular season team that beat everybody soundly, are they going to be able to rebound? Indiana, are they going to be able to rebound and go back to Cleveland with the 3-1 edge? You're listening to the Basketball Show, Sports 1440. Paul Sir, Ryan Reed, coming to you on this beautiful Saturday morning here in Edmonton. Okay, let's talk Celtics-Knicks. There are chokes, and then there are chokes. But the two losses by the Celtics are inexplicably bad for a number of reasons, Ryan. and one of the big, I saw a great comment today, a headline that read, are the Celtics losses proof positive that teams shoot too many threes today? And to me, that's like, duh. Does the sun come up in the morning? Yes. Are they shooting too many threes? Hell yes. Of course they are. To have no creativity to fall back on when the other team is surging and just take reluctant threes, which leads to a lack of confidence. And you talk about tightening up. All you have to do is miss about 5 or 6 threes in a row to get tight. And the best way out of that, shoot a couple layups, go to the rim and get fouled and go to the foul line.
You touched on it a little bit, but it's not even just shooting threes. It's the refusal to change your ways when things aren't going well.
Yes.
There's an arrogance to it. Mm-hmm. It's an arrogance, and you have to be able to change when things are working. Are threes a good way to play and win? Yes, especially now.
Well, and the Celtics won a championship
exactly.
when it's working.
But when it's not working, you can't just stick. Like, you got to try something different. You can't just be like, oh, we'll play fine. We'll figure it out. We'll keep shooting, and we'll figure it out. It's not the way it works. That's the difference in an analytical approach versus an eye test approach.
Versus an intelligent basketball approach as opposed to nerd reams of paperwork.
It's like if the nerd approach is if you see a three, like, oh, well, just keep doing this until it works and eventually work. But the eye test is eventually you have to change your ways. Emotions are involved. Energy is involved, not energy, but like momentum is involved. And you have to be able to change your ways to adjust, especially in the playoffs against a good team like the Knicks are.
I'm going to give you my 3, and those are great points, Ryan. I'm going to give you my 3 complaints specifically targeted at individual coaches that I've seen in the playoffs so far. Number 1's Missoula. Exactly to your point, not being willing to change and not being willing to adapt when a team is coming back and when there is the most amount of pressure on a Celtics team that is somewhat banged up. I mean, Jaylen Brown is not himself, and he's been fighting a knee injury. Porzingis is always hurt, and he always plays with some limitations physically.
Even when he was with the Knicks and Mavericks, too.
Oh, he always hurt.
Which is tough. He's 7'3", right?
He's 7'3", and he's just had a lot of injuries. There's nothing that he's done wrong. It's just he's had injuries.
It's the way it is, though. It is true. He's injured all the time.
Yeah, he is. And Tatum just has not been up to the moment so far in terms of hitting shots. So the other night, Missoula not adapting when the Knicks are coming back again with Mr. Clutch leading the way, and nobody else has the cojones this guy has in terms of, he's they're of steel. The guy just hits shots at the clutch time and finds ways to make plays. But then you also had Bridges, who the Knicks gave away a ton for to bring in this year, was absolutely dismal through 3 quarters, and then not only lit it up, with, I think, 14 in the fourth. It was either 14 or 17 in the fourth in that big comeback in Game 2, but made the clutch defensive deflection on Tatum with that ridiculous play.
He shot over like 3 guys there.
Whatever in the world Missoula drew up, and Tatum didn't execute.
Seeing the other players on that play are funny. There's watching them like the hands in their head, like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? It was so bad. So number 1 is Missoula. Number 2, though, I had a real problem. I never tweet during games, but I was watching, and this goes back a ways. I was watching Golden State trying to close out Houston in Game 7. That was last Sunday. But Steph Curry in the first half had 3 points. And the reason he had 3 points is Houston was doing a great job defensively on him. Amen Thompson locked him down. They were sending a second defender at him all the time. So Curry became a facilitator, and other players were stepping up and scoring lots of points. That's all fine and dandy. But then in the second half, that pattern continued, and then the Rockets started pulling away. So I said, once again, adapting. Why in the world isn't Steph Curry being told by Steve Kerr, you've got to stop passing, you've got to start scoring? And he did. And it was just like the light switch was flipped. So it's not a complaint against Kerr's per se, other than this reliance on screen and roll and reliance on shooting the 3 by average players gets carried away so much. And I think in the case of Golden State, for them to be competitive, and we'll talk about that in just a brief second, for them to be competitive, you need Steph Curry in any series, which is why, and I won't bother with number 3 on the coaching complaint, but before we run out of time, let's go to the Wolves and the Wolves and the Warriors now. The Warriors, the best description of Game 1 was that I heard was I forget who the play-by-play announcer was, but he called it a rock fight. And that was the perfect description of Game 1. The Wolves were beyond hideous. That was as ugly a game as I've seen in a long, long time. And even though Steph Curry went out with a hamstring strain, in the first half, the Warriors were able to hang on and find a way to beat the Wolves in Game 1. Wolves came back, fairly decisive win, 117-93 in Game 2. Anthony Edwards in the second half stopped, pouting, sucking his thumb, carrying the blankie around, and he became Anthony Edwards to a point again, even though he has been shooting bricks as well. That's the thing.
McDaniels has been their guy.
McDaniels is great.
Julius Randle,
McDaniels, and Naz Reid. They have been fantastic. DiVincenzo has had his moments.
With Anthony Edwards, he did last year. He was very, very good. So it's not like we're not questioning his ability to play in the playoffs. He's done that before. It just he hasn't been great as of late.
And the other thing is he's 23, and he's still learning as well.
Great age, yeah.
And I think the thing with Anthony Edwards is he's a combination of this effervescent personality. Everybody loves it, but he also is kind of flaky emotionally. Most technicals in the NBA. I mean, you're playing in the same league as Draymond Green, and you got more technicals. You're doing something wrong. You got to show some self-control. And the way I've read Anthony Edwards' performance so far has been the moment all of a sudden he started thinking about it, and the moment kind of got away from him because against Houston or against who did they beat in the first round?
The Timberwolves?
Yeah.
Lakers.
Oh, Lakers. Yeah. Okay, forget that. But in the Lakers' last game, he was 0 for 11, I think, in Game 5, and that's kind of carried forward. So when you start doubting yourself and you're shooting the 3, a.k.a. Boston Celtics, that rim turns. Here's the best metaphor I can make. When you're on fire, when you're shooting with confidence, the basket looks like a golf green. When you're lacking in confidence, when you're doubting yourself, it looks like the cup in a golf green. And that's the difference right now. So you've got to find other ways to take the pressure off yourself. You got to find other ways to score, Boston, Minnesota, than relying on the 3, because yes, it will come back eventually, but it'll come back faster, most likely, if you're getting mid-range and close to the basket, attacking shots and getting to the free throw line than chucking threes and failing and giving the other team momentum and confidence.
It can work more in the regular season, like to live and die by the 3. It's okay to try that in the regular season, but it's magnified in the playoffs when it doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So when you're not making those adjustments, to your point, it's going to be so obvious that it's not going to go well. And you've seen that from multiple teams, multiple games, even players. Mikal Bridges made an adjustment, and it worked out for him in the fourth quarter, right? He wasn't hitting anything. 0 points up into the fourth quarter. He made an adjustment himself. He's like, all right, I'll play a little more defense. Let's get in the game defensively. Let's get to the line. Let's see the ball go through the hoop. And he was able to rebound on that, no pun intended, and
absolutely
fix itself.
Absolutely. The best way to get yourself out of a slump is to work harder. Play more defense. Run the court harder. Dive for a loose ball. Lose yourself, immerse yourself in the game. Don't think about the shot that you just missed. Think about making a difference in the next play. We're going to take a break right now. We've set up, I think, for the next round. We'll talk a little bit more about this in our final segment, but we've got 3 great guests consecutively. When we come back, we'll have Seerat Sohi on. We're going to talk about the WNBA season, Caitlin Clark, and just Seerat's journey. So please stay with us on this beautiful Saturday morning. You're listening to your sports leader, Sports 1440. This is the Basketball Show with Paul and Ryan. Sir, here on your sports leader, Sports 1440, and I am pleased, and I really mean that. I am thrilled to have our next guest with us today. Seerat Sohi lives in Los Angeles. She writes for The Ringer,
writing about basketball, and she joins me from LA today. Seerat, how are you?
I'm amazing. I'm thrilled to be here. How are you?
Doing great, and just to be able to tell your story, because I don't think, I get the impression a lot of people in Edmonton do not realize what you do in the sport of basketball. Like, we have royalty coming out of Edmonton in the basketball world, and oftentimes I'm trying to be a clarion voice for that, but I mean, when you've got an assistant with the Charlotte Hornets, the acting GM of the Atlanta Hawks, and on and on and on, and now you're a writer for one of the real exciting, dynamic publications and podcasting groups in the U.S. and the Ringer. So, Sarah, let's start with this. How did you? Where does your passion for basketball come from?
Well, first of all, I have to say that's very kind. I'd say I have to stop short of basketball royalty, but I do appreciate that. I always loved basketball. I feel like I grew up playing it. My dad was always trying to get me to play soccer. That was his passion growing up. So he was trying to instill that in me. And I do remember there was one day where he was training me, and I didn't like the way things were going, like I felt like he was being hard on me. And I ran away from the field and ran home crying. And I think from that moment on, I just had this sense of rebellion about it, where I was like, I'm going to do something different than you. In that way, I was really young. In the way that kids like, you want to individuate yourself. You want to differentiate yourself from your parents. And then, I always loved sports, and I was I was an outdoors kid. So I think from there, I started playing basketball at school, and I just fell in love with it immediately. Like, I just loved everything about it, and it's just if you play basketball, it's just such a magical, joyful, beautiful, musical sport, really.
Basketball is jazz. A friend of mine wrote a book. Yeah, basketball is jazz. It really is.
Oh, he wrote a book about that.
Yeah, that's the title of his book. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I was listening recently. I don't know if you've watched Celtic City yet.
No, not yet.
Yeah, but Spencer Haywood, the great Hall of Famer, talks about basketball and jazz, and he compared the play of many, many athletes to a jazz musician. So I think you're right on the mark, Sarah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a very meditative experience too. I was an only child, so I spent a lot of time alone. So being able to just shoot jumpers for hours on end was just, that was how I spent my childhood, as I'm sure you did too.
Well, so you got going in it, then you played basketball, but to make the leap from playing to writing about basketball, and not just writing about basketball, but writing about basketball at the highest level and finding a way to get yourself into that ecosystem. Walk us through that journey, because that's an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah. So when I was in college, I started a blog. And it was also, I got really lucky in a lot of different ways. I think it was a really good time to be on Twitter talking about basketball. No longer the case up here.
Correct.
But there are other places, though. I do think there are other places that you can go to have, I think, generative conversations about anything, really. Like, I feel like Substack, even certain Reddits and stuff like that, for anybody who's kind of looking for the modern equivalent of that. There are definitely places like Discords and stuff like that, where I do think that people are having really great conversations about sports. But at the time, that was happening on Twitter. So I started a blog, and then I started following other bloggers, other writers on Twitter. I started reading their work. I started getting in touch with them. And a lot of those people just became my friends, because naturally we're passionate about the same thing. So I learned a lot from them. We would edit each other's work. We would, critique each other. We would just kind of, help each other refine our ideas and the way that we think about the game. So I did that, I started when I was 17, and I did that for the course of a few years, to the point where I think in my last few years of college, I was freelancing part-time. And when I graduated, I had a conversation with somebody who would help me freelance edit. He was an editor of mine, freelance for SB Nation. His name is Paul Flannery. And we had a conversation where he was like, look, it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing, where until you do it, nobody's going to believe that you can do it. So you kind of have to find a way to figure it out on your own. So I ended up moving to Toronto, and just kind of took the chance that I would get enough freelance work to be able to sustain myself. And luckily I did in the first year or so, just working for a lot of different outlets. And I think that was really helpful too, to be able to work with so many different editors, and so many different publications, and to have to pitch so much as well. So I really have to think, okay, if I'm pitching something to ESPN, their fans want a particular type of article. Whereas if I'm pitching something to SB Nation, where I ended up working, they want a different type of article. So it kind of helped me think about what readers are looking for, and kind of how to tailor things to an audience, and also how to tailor things to editors as well. So then, yeah, I moved out there, and then I ended up, after a year of freelancing, I ended up working full time with SB Nation. And then from there, I spent some time there, moved on to Yahoo, where I worked for a couple of years. And then The Ringer, which is always just I had wanted to work for The Ringer. Like, that was like my North Star of ambition when I was coming up. Like, I was reading Grantland article, like Bill Simmons, who is a founder of The Ringer,
Right.
Also founded Grantland, which was just one of the most magical websites of all time, truly. At a time when people actually still would go into the URL and type in a website. I feel like we don't do that anymore. It just had the most, not even sports writing, just some of the most incredible writing that you could read. So it was like, I read it like a religion, and just tried to emulate everything that was on Grantland. So when The Ringer reached out, I was just like beyond excited. And I've been there for about, I would say 3 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, The Ringer, what I love about The Ringer is the unbridled creativity and the willingness and the, I guess, ambition to go into tangents that don't necessarily relate at all to sport or basketball, but relate to what I read it as, that relate to basketball fans, because people who are basketball fans have many other interests in their lives. And I just got a link yesterday from the most, I think it's one of the most recent ones, where they do all the movie stuff, where they talk about the movies, and this is about Star Wars: The Last Hope.
Oh, yeah.
So they do all this crazy stuff, but boy, does it resonate. And I think, and that's what your writing does, is it resonates, Seerat. And I think that's what's so cool about the way that you've gone about this, is anybody who has creativities, and like, I was in the art business for a long time.
Oh, cool.
I managed a lot of artists, and it really was similar to the athletic path. It's similar to the writing path. It's similar to the comic path. Whatever you do, if you're in the creative world, you just have to keep knocking doors down until you find your path forward, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I think you have to become comfortable with no.
Yes.
And then figure out a way to move on from that as well. Yes. And also to continue to believe in yourself when you hear those no's. Like, no's aren't always a bad thing. I find that oftentimes I've heard no because I should have,
Great point.
And you either it's just an idea that needs a little bit more work, or it's just the wrong time. I've had certain things where I pitched 2 years prior, and it wasn't the right moment for it, but it can be the right moment for it later as well. So I really think, I think you just have to keep trying. I think that's the biggest thing. And that's where passion, I think, is really important, because I don't think anything else is really going to be able to sustain you through rejection and things like that, unless you really, really believe in it. I always tell journalism students, anybody who's aspiring to be a sports journalist, because it is a difficult business, and I've been very, very lucky in how my journey has gone. So I never want to mislead anybody. So the number one thing I always ask anybody when they reach out to me about going into sports writing is like, do you absolutely have to? Do you feel like you absolutely have to? And if the answer to that is yes, and then by all means go for it.
Such a good point. And I'm talking to Seerat Sohi. She writes for The Ringer. She hails from Edmonton. Her father is Mayor Amarjeet Sohi. and she joins me today on the basketball show. Seerat, I think what we'll get to what you're writing about in just a second, but I think this is so critical. I want people to hear your story loud and clear. When you're a basketball player, or I'll reverse it, a basketball coach. One of the questions that I found always the most fascinating when players would come up to me when I was coaching and say, "Coach, what do I have to do to be able to get on the court?" Mm-hmm. And I said, the answer is really simple: be better than somebody else. So you don't have to worry about asking me what you have to do. You have to worry about what you're doing to make yourself better. Mm-hmm. And it has to matter to you first and foremost that you get on the court, and then you prove why I can't say no to you. Yeah. And I think that like when others reach out to you, Seerat, it has to be that I want to do what you do. So how can I do that? And the only way to do it is the way you did it, which is just to have to absolutely pursue this passion of yours.
Yeah, I think that's right. I always tell people the simplest thing, I always feel bad giving this advice because I think sometimes people are looking for some sort of silver bullet, but truly, like, read, write, and watch over and over and over and over again. That's really all it came down to. And I do think that, when you say that, when you make the analogy to, being a basketball player that's on the bench, I think that being competitive is important. And I think it's definitely a part of sports. And I think that anybody who is going into sports writing probably has some of that in them. But it also made me think about desire, because I think that the biggest thing for anybody who's stuck on the bench and wants to play is that want, like that deep thing inside of them that just said, like, I want to be the one that's out there. Like, I just want to experience that. And I think that after a while, that's what actually started to drive me. I like getting a few interviews, getting a few features where I got to talk to players and really understand what's in their mind, and try to put that out onto paper was just such an exhilarating experience that I got to learn so much from. And then after that, it was like, okay, how can I go deeper with this? Like, how can I understand like the athletic mind even more? And I think also part of that for me was also just like, I love basketball, but I was never the best at it. But I still had I had the desire. I had the brain of somebody who really wanted in the way that these athletes want. So it allowed me to like connect with something in myself. And I think that any creative journey, like you get to a certain point with it where you do find that piece of it that really, really connects with something deep within you that you've been trying to unearth. And like, that's not just for writing, that's for anything.